The golden child's empire was built on my silence until I revealed the secret clause. I'm 32 years old, and for the last decade, I was the invisible son. My brother Caleb is 36. He was the star athlete, the charismatic leader, and the one my parents, Thomas and Sarah, groomed to take over Sterling Architecture and Design. My father started the firm in 1992 in a suburb of Chicago. By the time I graduated from university, it was a powerhouse, pulling in 8-figure contracts. The plan was always simple. Caleb would lead, and I would support. My father used to say, Caleb is the face of the brand, but Elias, you are the foundation. I used to take that as a compliment. I didn't realize that foundations are meant to be walked on and buried. I joined the firm in 2016 with a degree in architectural engineering. While Caleb spent his days at country clubs and high-stakes lunches networking, I was the one in the trenches. I pulled 80-hour weeks, fixed structural errors in his designs, and managed the actual project teams. But when the ribbons were cut and the photos were taken for Architectural Digest, Caleb was the only one in the frame. By 2021, my brother's ego had become a monster. He started treating me like a mid-level contractor instead of a partner. He would forget to include me in board meetings. He started redirecting my emails to his assistant. The worst part? My father let it happen. Whenever I'd bring it up, Dad would sigh and say, Elias, Caleb is the CEO. He needs to establish authority. Don't make this a family drama. But the real betrayal happened in 2023. We were bidding for the Oak Haven project, a $40 million eco-resort. It was my brainchild. I'd spent 2 years researching sustainable materials and modular construction. 3 days before the final pitch, Caleb reorganized my office. He told me I was too close to the technical side and that he would handle the presentation to ensure a visionary delivery. He took my work, stripped my name from the blueprints, and presented it as his own legacy vision. We won the contract. That night, at a victory dinner, Caleb announced he was looking into a corporate restructuring that would essentially dilute my minority shares and move me into a consultant role. He wanted me out of the family business entirely. My mother looked at her plate, my father looked at the ceiling. Nobody defended me. I walked out of that dinner, went to a dive bar, and called a man named Arthur Vance. Arthur was my grandfather's best friend and the original silent partner who helped my dad fund the company back in '92. Arthur, I said, is it still true? It's always been true, Elias, Arthur replied. Your father signed it when the company was incorporated. He probably forgot it even exists because he never thought you'd have to use it. See, when my father was starting out, my grandfather provided the seed money under one condition. He didn't trust my father's business instincts regarding family. He insisted on a veto of sanity clause. It stated that if the company ever attempted to force out a blood heir or undergo a hostile restructuring of a family member's shares, a specific block of golden shares held in a private trust would be activated. Those shares didn't belong to my father. They belonged to the youngest successor, which was me. I didn't say anything for 6 months. I let Caleb get comfortable. I let him sign the initial paperwork for the Oak Haven project. I even let him move my office to the basement level. I spent those 6 months working with Arthur's legal team, quietly documenting every time Caleb bypassed the bylaws and every time my father looked the other way. The grand reveal happened during the annual shareholders meeting in March 2025. Caleb was on stage glowing, talking about phase 2 of his leadership, which was the formal vote to buy out my shares for pennies on the dollar. Before we vote, I stood up. The room went silent. Caleb rolled his eyes. Elias, sit down. We discussed this. You're being compensated fairly. I'm not here to talk about compensation, Caleb, I said, walking to the front with a leather folder. I'm here to discuss the Sterling Trust Clause of 1992. My father's face went white. He dropped his pen. The what? Caleb sneered. The clause that says you can't fire me, you can't dilute me, and, most importantly, it gives me the power to dissolve the board of directors if the CEO is found to be acting against the foundational integrity of the firm. I handed the documents to the company's legal counsel. As they read through the verified, notarized papers, the atmosphere in the room shifted from corporate triumph to legal funeral. The clause was ironclad. Because Caleb had tried to force me out, he had triggered a mechanism that stripped him of his voting power for a period of 5 years. In that window, the youngest successor, me, assumed the role of chief compliance officer with full veto power over all executive decisions. Caleb lost it. He started screaming that it was a fake, that I was a snake, that I was ruining the family. My father finally stood up, but he didn't look at Caleb. He looked at me with a mixture of shame and, strangely, relief. I told you he was the foundation, Caleb, my dad whispered. I just didn't realize foundations could fight back. Caleb was forced to take a sabbatical. The Oak Haven project proceeded, but this time, my name was on the lead architect line. My mother tried to host a reconciliation brunch a month later, but I didn't go. I told her that peace is expensive, and I was done paying for it with my dignity. Today, Sterling Architecture is thriving. Caleb is living off a stipend in Florida, still posting on LinkedIn about entrepreneurship while he does absolutely nothing. My father and I have a professional relationship, but the family part is broken beyond repair. People ask me if I regret tearing the family apart. I tell them the same thing I told the board. I didn't tear anything down. I just remodeled a house that was built on a lie. And in architecture, if the house isn't safe, you don't keep living in it. You fix the structure, or you walk away. I chose to fix it.